how to open your programs powerfully, how to engage your audience or your participants to the maximum. Here is the single most powerful and the most impactful way to start your session. HMOY. What it is, find out.
May I see a show of hands? How many people have already read Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
How many of you would like to have a lot more money in your lives? Excellent. And how many of you would like to have a lot more happiness in your lives? Thank you. And how many of you would like to have a lot more of both in your lives? Excellent.
So how many of you would like a lot more money in your lives? I said a lot more money in your lives. Thank you. And how many of you would like a lot more happiness in your lives? How many of you could stand a whole lot more of both in your lives?
How many of you had a great evening last night? Say, oh yeah. How many of you want to have a great day today? Say, oh yeah.
How many of you have some major goals you'd like to achieve? Raise your hands, please. Very good. I know you do.
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions?
What are the first words you should say in a speech? And what are the last words you should say in a speech? Now, tomorrow, I don't know how many of you are speaking, but I guarantee if you go to conferences, 19 out of 20 speakers will start in one of these ways. Number one, my name is Connor Neal, I'm from Tango, and this talk is about the latest trend in monitoring strategies. Now, all of you are sitting with a piece of paper in front of you that says, I'm Connor Neal, I've come from Ireland, and I'm going to talk about Tango 04 and this. So, by repeating what you already know, I'm giving a signal that it's a time to get your BlackBerry out. I've just signaled that this talk is opportunity to reconnect with BlackBerry, make sure the office is okay, maybe get some plans together for the weekend. Another way to start. The lights, the mic's working. How much time have I got? Okay, right. Okay, is it plugged in? And you laugh, but I guarantee tomorrow there's going to be some moments that get a little bit on. And why? Because this is, for some of you, the first time you see this individual. They're here as a leader in their industry. And your kid at school presenting on giraffes does a better job. That's sad. So, how to start a speech? First way, with a question that matters to the audience. How do you phrase a problem that the audience faces in a question? So that'd be the third best way of starting a speech. The second best way of starting a speech is with a factoid that shocks. There's more people alive today than have ever died. There's more people alive today than have ever died. So there's a lot of speeches that can follow on from there. Every 2 minutes, the energy reaching the earth from the sun is equivalent to the whole annual usage of humanity. All the energy, all the cars, everything moving, all the lighting, all the air conditioning of the world in 1 year is equivalent to 2 minutes of sun. Does that change how you think about energy? So, what's a fact that shocks the audience into rethinking? And Google has transformed your ability to get at these facts. Given 2 or 3 minutes, you can find out, one, whether anything I've said is true, but you trust me because I look the part and I'm from ESA. Those are, in fact, 2 true facts. I usually get someone come up to me at the end, are you sure? How do they measure dead and alive? But it's true. And it's not even close. But the best way to start a speech, and the way that I hope all of you use from now forward, is the same way we start a story to a child. Now, how do we start a story to a child? Érase una vez. Once upon a time. And what happens when you say once upon a time? I can tell you what happens when I say once upon a time. My daughter leans forward, gets ready to hear, engages. And we were all trained as kids to know when a story's coming. We also know when a teacher is about to deliver a 40-minute boring lecture that has no impact on our lives. But in business, you don't hear Jack Welch saying once upon a time. Steve Jobs doesn't start his speeches once upon a time. So there's a grown-up way of saying once upon a time. And if you listen to the conversations that are interesting around you at a dinner table, in a networking event, if you listen to the people that are gathering, the group of 8 that are listening to them, the way they're talking is different. The way they start is different. The way you tell stories as an adult is, in October, it was the last time I was in this room. There were 120 people in the room, and I was having a little conversation with one of the world experts on public speaking. And he said something to me. He said something to me that's had me thinking ever since. He said something to me that changed what I think about what's important in speaking. So now I can pause for about 30 seconds, 2-3 minutes, and you want to know what he said.